Hello, everybody, and welcome to this kind of one-off episode here with Spotlight Sports. It'll be on our YouTube channel, but we're anything but just Spotlight Sports today. Joining me and Brayden is a conglomerate of friends and fellow media members from across the United States, specifically in the Midwest. But I'll go ahead and start off in introducing them in order. First, from Clutch Sports Media and also Urbana, Illinois, Mr. Joey Wright.
Cody, thanks for having me. Looking forward to chopping it up today. TBT is such a fun event. Had a great time with it last year. Going to be another good one this year.
Absolutely. Also joining us is Mr. John Michael from the Bradley Scout.
How's it going? Glad to be here. Talking TBT is always a fun time. It's one of the crazier basketball tournaments of the entire year. I mean, you think March Madness is unpredictable. TBT might be even more unpredictable. So I love talking about it. It's going to be a fun time.
Sure is. And then also joining us is Matt Lucas.
Hey, Cody, thanks for having me on here. And when we talk about the TBT, you can't not bring up the Elam ending, and that's what I'm excited for, to see that again.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the two mainstays in Spotlight Sports, Brayton Tuma.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun event to talk about. I mean, what's not fun about it? You got players that are old, retired, coming back for maybe one last run with some of the young guns that are looking to prove themselves. You got international players that are in college. I mean, it's all over the place. So it's always fun and very unpredictable.
Sure is. And then, of course, I'm Cody Roskins. I'll be your host today. The other four will be representing a total of 8 different region sites, but the 4 different quadrants in the tournament. So Joey had the Rucker Park Xavier. Brayton went ahead and took Omaha and Wichita. Matt took West Virginia and Dayton. And then Jonathan took New Mexico and Syracuse. But, guys, before we jump into the picks that you guys have all kind of kept disclosed from each other, what are some of the things you're looking for, maybe in your region specifically, or just some of the fun things about the tournament?
Well, Cody, I'll hop in first, and I'll kind of piggyback off what Brayton said. I think it was Brayton or Matt that mentioned whoever mentioned the Elam ending.
Yeah.
That was Matt, but I'm sure Brayton likes it too. I'm sure everyone likes it because it is the defining characteristic of the TBT. And I've got to go back to last year's game in Peoria, Always a Brave and Hoopville Warriors, and anyone who was watching that game on TV or in that building, I don't see how it's a game you can ever forget. I was right on the court, shooting some video as an intern for TBT last summer, and that was maybe the coolest sporting event that I've ever seen in person. And I don't know how you can top it. Bradley down 11 points late, but of course the Elam ending, the time doesn't necessarily work against you. You've got to score. You've got to be the first team to score, X amount of points. What is it, 7 or 8 added to the team's total first dead ball under 4 minutes. You add 7 or 8 points. I think it's 8, but it might be 7 to the team's total, and you play to that number. And Bradley caps a miraculous comeback and gets the job done. Hoopville's in this year's tournament. They'll have a chip on their shoulder, but watch for the Elam ending to really kind of throw a wrench in some teams' plans.
Well, going back to that game last year, a couple months, and actually this was fairly recently, I saw on TBT's Instagram page, I guess whoever they had doing math for them, or maybe some odds makers that they hired, saw that Always a Brave had a 1 in 1 million chance to come back from that deficit. I mean, they were down. Like Hoopville only needed 1 more point, and they had 3 chances to tie it from the free throw line, missed all of them, and Bradley just goes, I think, on a 14-0 run, something like that. And believe it or not, that was the very first basketball game ever that I was press row at, that I was credentialed for, and then had to write a recap right afterwards. And I was like, oh man, that's a baptism of fire. If you ever seen one right there, and asked, the coach for Always a Brave, Daniel Ruff, and I was like, how did you guys do that? And he's like, man, just stop at a bucket. That's what we preached the entire time. And I mean, it just showed the magic of TBT. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to see a comeback like that again, but if we do see one, I will be thoroughly impressed.
I guess something else that I'll add here is just some of the teams that are returning this year. We have a whole plethora of teams that played in last year's tournament are coming back again this year. And I saw my region has the Bucketeers, and they were a little bit of a surprise team last year, made a good run playing some scrappy basketball. Not a whole lot of guys that people know of unless you're part of the East Tennessee State fan group. So they return this year. They're a 2 seed. So are they really going to be able to make that run when they're kind of known as one of the better teams in that region? who knows? I think we've got a whole lot of teams around this entire bracket who can do that same thing that they did last year.
Absolutely. Well, with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead, and jump into our first bracket, which Brighton had, again, the two regionals of Omaha and Wichita. All right, so Brighton, will you go ahead and please, just kind of give us a quick rundown of the teams in your bracket? Not necessarily every team, but just maybe some that pop out, some of the things that you like, or just overall some of the games that you maybe had, 50-50 toss-up.
Okay, so big thing about this was we're going to start right off with the Gutter Cats versus the Crew. Valparaiso alumni forming the Crew. But the Gutter Cats just have so much experience and so much success in the TBT. It's hard not to pick them, and it's hard to kind of shy away from them. The Crew has been known to cause upsets, have a little success here and there. I just don't think it's in their cards this time. The Underdogs, this next game is a big one for me because this is an upset team. They are known as the Giant Killers. They don't win the tournament, but they will knock teams out that are supposed to. So I have them going and taking away an Oregon team that doesn't have experience in the TBT, but has, they're really hyped up with the fact that they're really good at shooting and they're really good at playing in the fast break. And that's just from past alumni coming back and playing. Team Overtime versus Blue Crew. I'm taking Blue Crew as just home court advantage. TBT is a big thing. You're playing in somebody's backyard, so it's hard not to pick somebody who's taking home court advantage in a tournament where you don't really see a lot of home court advantage. So, and then after that, you go to Team Arkansas versus the guys STL Arkansas. This was actually probably my easiest pick other than the Gutter Cats game. Arkansas alumni have a lot of guys that have been in a successful program, and I think they're going to continue to have success all the way into the TBT. And then Kansas State was an easy pick. They're just shooting ability. When you look at a lot of their guys that are playing, they're long ball shooters, and that's really big in today's game, especially in a game where you have a score limit. It's not so much as time. So going into the rest of it, I mean, pretty clean cut with what I've picked. Gutter Cats are gonna be the strongest team here. They're gonna take over the tournament when they beat the Underdogs, who are probably gonna run out of gas. It's my view there. Arkansas is just going to have too much shooting ability, play too well in the fast break for the Blue Crew to even kind of come close with it. And then D3 is one upset wonder where Texas Tech is going to overrun the D3 and then drive with using their well backgrounded experience. They're going to take over Kansas State. And then rounding it off, Gutter Cats, once again, just having guys that have played international as pros, not just at the college level, going to outshoot and outplay and be outcoached, I believe, by the Gutter Cats. And so that's how I would kind of round it off, is the team to watch for in this is the Gutter Cats. But I think the fun games, if you're looking for first rounds, will be Blue Crew versus Team Overtime, and Always Us versus the Jackson Underdogs. Those are two games that are predicted to be close because they just one's got home court advantage, and then of course the other one, the Underdogs, are known to be giant killers. So always a fun one.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll go ahead and turn it over to the rest of the panel. Any quick thoughts? I mean, obviously, Joey, we saw Jackson, Tennessee down the House of Pain in Peoria last year, and what was kind of a shell-shocking kind of game. I mean, they pulled with House of Pain kind of pulled close late. Jackson, Tennessee just never really seemed like they were that scared. I mean, it's a team full of truck drivers and blue collar type of guys. And I guess as well for the rest of the panel, just kind of what your thoughts are on Brayton's pick in the Omaha and Wichita area.
I'll hop in first, Cody, and you're exactly right. And Brayton, you were exactly right. Jackson Underdogs, they aren't afraid, and they gave Bradley a pretty good game because they had the unfortunate task of playing Bradley after that game we mentioned earlier, the big legendary comeback against Hoopville Warriors. It was Jackson who played them next, and a lot of Bradley folks were kind of nervous about that because they looked good against House of Pain. The thing to note with House of Pain, who is not in this year's tournament, is that they were flat. I don't know that Jackson, Tennessee necessarily won that game. Of course, credit where credit is due so much as House of Pain lost it. I mean, they were flat. They had a lot of folks make the 90-minute trip from Champaign. Illinois radio crew made the trip. I mean, there was a lot of hype on last year's House of Pain team, and you'll notice I'm wearing Brandon Paul's jersey that he left in the tunnel
from
afterwards.
that game.
From that game-worn jersey. But Paul came out flat. Kipper Nichols wasn't great. Mike Daum was okay. He's actually on sideline cancer this year. We'll talk about him a little later on, but Illinois was just kind of flat. So, and then Jackson came out, bowed out in round 2. I've got to see a little more from them this year, but certainly wouldn't be surprised if they were to win a game or two.
Yeah, and Joey, speaking of Illinois alumni, one that is also playing in the Omaha region is Michael Finke. I mean, I don't know if you remember him, a former combo forward for the Illini. He is on Always Us, the Oregon alumni team this year, and that team looks a lot different. Last year they were a little bit of an aging team, a lot of older guys, but they got some new blood in there this year. They got Dwayne Benjamin, Jaleel Abdul-Bassett, EJ Singler, obviously the brother of Kyle Singler as well, along with Michael Finke as well. So having some young guys in there, I think will help Always Us. But when I was picking my bracket, I picked the exact same as Brayton. Maybe not all the way through, but in the first round, I also picked Jackson to win as well. And I think the most fun part about watching Jackson is their 5'3" point guard, Anthony Sampson. It's just crazy seeing that little guy just running around the court. And he may not score the most, but he can really, thread the needle with his passes. He can get to the bucket as well. I mean, he's finished some layups up in the trees. So Jackson's always a fun team to watch. And one team that I also really want to look for is Team Overtime as well. And the reason for that is they have Amen and All-Star Thompson, two of the highest rated recruits coming out of high school this year. They're going to be playing for, I believe, Overtime Elite for this coming year before entering the draft next year. But those are two guys that this is their first taste of ball, like really outside of high school for the most part. So seeing like those guys going up against Blue Crew at home, I think that's going to be a great matchup. Really excited for that one.
I think so too. I agree with Jonathan there. Those are some nice teams. I like Team Overtime as well, but I want to focus on the Air Raiders because I was going through my bracket and I think they have a chance to go far as well. I don't have We Are D3 getting that win, but I have Air Raiders winning against the Aftershocks anyway. I think they're a nice team in that first round game with Stillwater Stars, 4-5 games. That's going to be an electric Big 12 meeting between two alumni teams there. I'm excited for that one. I'm also looking at Jackson, Tennessee as well. I think they did pretty well this year, and I actually believe that they're going to win a game or two this year as well. So I'm excited for this region. I think we've got some good ones. Wichita and Omaha, they have very passionate fan base that are going to come out to support their teams. I think you're going to get some pass plays there.
Based on home court advantage alone, sorry to jump in on you, Cody, but based on home court advantage alone, it's so tough to pick against the Aftershocks in that first game because that place is going to be absolutely packed. You thought Carver or some of those other regionals were packed last year. Wichita was easily the best energy, and I got to give Aftershocks that first win. I do.
Yeah, Joe, I was going to try to echo what you say. I mean, the Fran Camp buzzer beater, it's one of the best calls that we've had so far in the TBT when Fran Camp hits the buzzer beater to send them. I can't remember what the team was. They may have been playing, I think it was a team in green. Could have been any number of them, but that, again, everybody knocks on the Midwest. There's not a lot to do. Well, when you don't have much to do in the Midwest in the summertime, you go watch some really good basketball. And so, with that being said, Omaha and Wichita, they might be combined for the best, atmosphere. But Joey, your region, which is the next one up, may actually give it a run for its money because you, sir, have a very unique regional, and we'll jump on that here right now as you have the Rucker Park and Xavier regional.
It's going to be two really good sites here in this regional, and you'll see Zip 'em Up. I've got making a run. Zip 'em Up fans come out and get excited because there's going to be a lot of energy behind the Zips this summer. But starting at the top, Florida TNT and Team About Billions. Florida TNT has been one of the most consistent teams in the TBT last couple of years. Really good showing last year, and I've got to think that they sneak past Team About Billions pretty easily there in the first round. Not a whole lot to say there. And then, Cody, you mentioned a moment ago, when you don't have a lot to do in the Midwest in the summertime, what do? You rally behind basketball, and that's exactly what I see in this Fort Wayne team. Kind of a blue collar vibe. Fort Wayne, they're going to be excited. An older team, they've been around for a long time. 10-6 overall in the TBT, and just kind of a blue collar team. I think that's going to be kind of a blue collar game. You look at their opponents, University of Cincinnati alumni team Nasty Natty. That'll be tough. They'll have a lot of fans in the stands, being from right across town. But I think Fort Wayne is going to come in and shock some people. That Natty team is interesting too, though. They've got a couple of guys. Troy Calpain, he played for the Trailblazers, so keep an eye on them. But I think pulling off the win there is Fort Wayne, and then we've got Zip 'em Up and Sweet Home Alabama. Zip 'em Up. What a team that is. They've got a good core. JP Makura, one of the better players on that roster. And Zip 'em Up, make sure I've got everything buttoned up here. Yeah. Trayvon Blewett and Mark Lyons. It's going to be a team. And they only, they bowed out in round 2 last year, so they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, but they've got a great head coach in Rick Carter. And I spoke last year, leading up to the tournament, with Jeff Robinson, and he said, we've got some of the best fans in the tournament. They'll come out. They'll support us. Jeff Robinson, of course, a player at Xavier in his days. So keep an eye on Zip 'em Up here. That'll be a theme. Sideline Cancer. We just talked about Mike Daum. He'll be playing for Sideline Cancer. And Sideline Cancer, of course, the only team who's played in the TBT what will it be now? 8 years of the tournament.
Yeah,
they started in 2014,
right.
Charter member, playing for a good cause. Yep. Pardon me. So, yeah, good cause they're playing for, good team. They've been here before. Advanced to the championship in 2020, and looking to get over the hump and win that championship. They'll get past Defeat Diabetes, another team that's playing for a pretty good cause in the first round. Good team on the perimeter with Mike Daum. That's a good addition. And then we get into some interesting ones. So keeping an eye on Chicago Hoopville, we mentioned. The team they face in round 1, the number 1 overall seed in the Rucker Park Regional, YGC. That's actually a team financed by Marcus Smart. He's a booster for YGC. But on the outdoor court at Rucker Park, Chicago Hoopville playing with a chip on their shoulder after the heartbreak we mentioned last year. That Bradley comeback maybe was the story of the TBT last year, certainly the first round. Hoopville's had a year to think about it. They've had a year to kind of ruminate on that. And being that they're hosting YGC, good chance to make the statement. I think they pull off the upset. And then Peacock Nation, baby, St. Peter's. That's just kind of a gut pick, but St. Peter's, after what they did in the NCAA tournament, I think they're fired up, they're jazzed up, and roll Spoo, baby, because I think they're gonna knock off Autism Army, who was a team in the Peoria Regional last year. Take a look at some of my picks in round 2, TNT and Zip 'em Up on a collision course. But that Zip 'em Up Sideline Cancer game, I think that might be the best game of this round. They would be a 1 seed if not for TNT and Sideline Cancer. Good 2-3 matchup. That's going to be the game to watch in round 2. Zip 'em Up will take down St. Peter's. Their run will come to an end. They'll get some good press and some good feelings. But I think Zip 'em Up at home, those first couple games, I like the home court advantage.
Well, there's a case to be made, Joe. I was just thinking, as I was, we were distributing the quadrants to everybody. Peacock Nation might be the most recently, D1 team against competition. It might be the most conditioned and used to playing, at a high level. Obviously, in the summertime, not everybody's used to, going quite as hard as they'll have to in the TBT. But there's a real case to be made that, either Peacock Nation or some of these, teams that don't do much around the year, this is pretty much all they live for. But Peacock Nation, they just got done. A large group of their players got done playing in the NCAA tournament, which is about as high of a level of a stakes tournament as you can get in the United States. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of truth to be said about the Peacock Nation run. All right, I'll turn over to the rest of the panel. Just kind of quick thoughts between the Xavier and Rucker Park area.
I'll take it first. I mean, that Rucker Park, shout out to the TBT for making that happen. That is going to be a great environment. I can't wait to watch that. Outside games, kind of at a park with so much lore to it, that's going to be electric. And with Peacock Nation there too as well. I can't dock anyone for picking them in the first round. That is going to be great. And you got to feed off that one. How can you not pick them? I'm looking at Zip 'em Up as well. That Xavier region is probably the best region, in my opinion, in this whole bracket. You've got Florida TNT, the 1 seed, Sideline Cancer, 2 seed. Zip 'em Up is a great team. And they're a 3 seed. Yeah, I think that's easy money. I agree with Joey here. I think that one, they're just going to be a great ball club, and they're going to dominate, I think, that section.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Xavier regional is probably. I mean, there's so many strong regionals, but I mean, this one really just. I mean, the top 3 teams are just insane. You can make the case that any of them could be 1 seeds, and I agree with, I agree with everyone saying that Zip 'em Up and Sideline Cancer is going to be the game of the second round. I'd be very surprised if they didn't face off with each other. And I had Sideline Cancer winning that regional because of pretty much it came down to the addition of Mike Dahm. I mean, I was pretty much about to flip a coin between the two, and I was like, well, Sideline Cancer, yeah, a little bit more experience, and the teams that have been in TBT before. I mean, you look at those guys that are on Sideline Cancer, like Marcus Keene and Maurice Creek, and they play every single year. Been a lot of success. I really like Zip 'em Up too, with JP McCura, Trevon Blewett, and I'm really looking forward to see the return of, and he didn't play last year, but one of the iconic college basketball figures for me back in the early 2010s was that funky looking center from Xavier named Matt Stainbrook. I loved watching him. He is really fun to watch. Also a great basketball player. So I'm really excited to see Stainbrook take the court again. But I think that winner of Zip 'em Up and Sideline Cancer is going to take that Xavier regional, and Rucker Park, maybe some teams maybe not quite as strong as the Xavier one, but that environment's going to be really good. I actually had YGC winning that one, although it was kind of tough. I also Army as well. Peacock Nation, I know that I really wanted to pick them. I hate to sound like the pessimist here, but Doug Eder and Casey and Defo, they're not suiting up, so it was a little bit tougher for me to pick the Peacocks, at least in this bracket. So sorry to anybody pulling for St. Peter's.
Joey's
it's just tough to see the optimism when there isn't the people from that run.
It's going to be a fun one. This is a really good region because there's a lot of underdogs, but there's also a lot of big names in there that have to face off. So it's going to be a strong one and a fun one.
Well, couldn't really have put it any better myself. But with that being said, Jonathan can get himself prepared as we're going to be jumping now to the other half of the bracket. So when we talk about Jonathan's assignment, which was the Syracuse and New Mexico, quadrant of the bracket. Jonathan, quickly, kind of give us a rundown of what you saw on this side of the bracket. Obviously, Boeheim's Army, defending champions. It's easy for the, kind of push them through. Obviously, you put a little more thought into that, but they've got a loaded roster, but there's also some really solid teams in this quadrant.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, the first team that obviously jumps off the page is Boeheim's Army, and when I saw their team last year, I knew that they were going to make a deep run. I was surprised that they hadn't made as deep of a run as it did last year before. I think they were actually overdue for it, and their team last year was just so stacked. I mean, Chris McCullough really led them a lot. You have DeAndre Kane and DJ Kennedy who just win wherever they go, whether that's Europe or the G League or just wherever they've been. DeAndre Kane and DJ Kennedy know how to win. Also, a couple other guys there, like I know they have Tyler Ennis, CJ Fair, but Boeheim's Army will look a little bit different next year. They don't have Chris McCullough, who was a very versatile forward for them last year, who he could bang bodies down low. He could also shoot the three, and he was a big reason why Boeheim's Army defeated Always a Brave in the regional final game last year in Peoria. They also don't have Eric Devendorf as well. He was a longtime Boeheim's Army member, but he was getting up there in age, but still couldn't make it happen on the court. He won't be back, at least as a player, this year. But I have them, going pretty easily against India Rising, and that's the new team in TBT this year. Compromised of people who are natives of India, so it'll be a fun team to watch. But I think Boeheim's Army takes that one pretty easily. And this next year, I'm really looking forward to between the Nerd Team and Brown and White, which is alumni from St. Bonaventure. And the Nerd Team, I was really impressed with looking at their roster. They really improved it a lot this year as compared to last year. Some guys that they added to their team, and I know Matt, who's a big Notre Dame fan, and I don't even need to say it. You can see the pennant right behind him. But Paul Atkinson and Prentice Hub on the nerd team, as well as Tamanang Cho, a small forward from Brown, probably one of the best low major players that you probably haven't heard of. This guy put up crazy numbers for the Brown Bears this year, who did take down the Bradley Braves this past season. That's mostly irrelevant, but Tamanang Cho, straight out of college, so are Paul Atkinson and Prentice Hub. So I think that trio is really going to be big. I like them to be brown and white as well. And then you got Friday Beers, one of the more interesting names in the tournament, obviously named after the popular lifestyle Instagram account, formerly known as, I believe it was Armored Athlete. That was the former name of the team, but that's going to be a pretty fun team to watch. Got some good guys there. I like them to take down Mental Toughness. Also, a shout out to Rusty Featherstone, TikTok sensation, who is listed as a player on Friday Beers. Don't know if he's going to see any playing time on the court. Listed as a center at 5'11". So at that rate, I'd be a power forward. So, but no, that Friday Beers team I think will be a real fun team to watch. And then have them going up against Blue Collar U, alumni from Buffalo University. And, I can't say I follow much basketball in the back. That's where Buffalo plays, obviously. But I seen Blue Collar U, they seem to make a deep run every single year. So, I have good reason to believe that they'll take down the NG Saints, who are in this tournament, I believe, by way of a buy-in. So, yep. I think that kind of maybe discredits them a little bit, the fact that they had to, pay their way in. I mean, hopefully it pays off for them, is, maybe a good use of money, but I think Blue Collar U takes out NG Saints. And then go down to New Mexico, another team seeded first, who was in the Peoria Regional last year, is Team Heartfire. And last year, that was a team I was really excited to see. They had a lot of, big name guys, at least from the college level, who I was really excited to see. And they also had a couple of former pros in there as well. And not everybody who was listed on their roster last year actually suited up for them. And I believe they lost in the first round, maybe the second round. Can't remember exactly. But they, at least on paper, they look pretty stacked this year. They got Daniel Ochefu, a former dominant center from Minnesota, as well as DeAndre Liggins as well. So I think they'll take down a competitive choice. I think this is going to be a big revenge year for Team Heartfire, and they could make a deep run. And then, you have the Enchantment, the New Mexico alumni, against the Panamaniacs, also a great team named the New Mexico State alumni. So the Bard in New Mexico is going to be rocking for that game. New Mexico State, both really good basketball schools. New Mexico State's had more recent success, and I picked them because they have a they have a recent graduate, Johnny McCants, who is a great player in the WAC, suiting up for them this year. So I got the Panamaniacs. They're going to take it over the Enchantment, but I think that one's going to come down to the last bucket. I have Ram Up also beating the LA Cheaters. Ram Up is the Colorado State alumni, and a notable name on their team is NBA veteran Jason Smith. And anytime you have a 7'1" center suiting up in TBT, that's going to be a pretty good recipe for success. We saw what Patrick O'Brien did last year with Always a Brave at, I believe he's 6'11" or 7 foot. But having that size, really is a huge advantage. And I think they take down the LA Cheaters, who, it seems like there's always a lot of hype around them. The team does look a little thin. They only have about 9 guys on there, and they have Casper Ware, who can, make some noise, and a couple other guys as well. But I really like Ram Up, to make, try and make a run this year. Then I also have Challenge ALS over the Boise State alumni, once a Bronco. So, and then I have Challenge ALS over Heartfire with Boeheim's Army, and Challenge ALS in the finals. I think Boeheim's Army is actually going to roll pretty easily in that game. So it will be they'll be rejoicing in Syracuse yet again, as it's going to be really, really tough to take down Boeheim's Army, at least in this quadrant of the bracket.
All right, so I guess it's time now for the rest of the panel to kind of go over Jonathan's picks here. First, I want to say, me and Matt, both Iowa State fans. DeAndre Kane, it was cool to see him play again in person after watching him play in college. Friday Beers, me and Matt and Jonathan were talking before. It might have the best team name in the tournament this year, but go ahead, guys. Maybe take away, just kind of put in your 2 cents.
Well, I'll take it off first. I mean, this is, again, a really good quadrant. And I look at that. I look at the top half in Syracuse and the most interesting game, and I hope this one does happen because you're right. I think both Boeheim's Army versus Challenge ALS. I think Boeheim's Army rolls that, but I think the most interesting game here would probably be Boeheim's Army versus Blue Collar U. Just a bunch of it would be a really interesting matchup. Buffalo having a bunch of their alumni coming back to play. I think it's going to be the closest game. I think it's sort of maybe not a final bucket game, but a game where we're close to a final bucket where it's like a 2-3 score game and down to the wire. But I mean, Jonathan's right with this. Boeheim's Army is hard not to pick. They have the most stacked roster. Not only is it the most stacked roster because you can stack at whatever roster you want, but they have experience in this tournament and kind of how it feels to play this hard in the summer, not in the fall, not in the winter when most pro leagues or even amateur leagues are going. But these guys are used to going hard in the summer and tournament style. You win or you go home. So I think this is a good pick. I've agreed with almost all of the picks. It's going to be a good. This entire tournament's going to be good. So I mean, it's hard not to like it.
In almost 50 years of being a head coach, the head coach at Syracuse, Jim Boeheim has never coached in Champaign. He's played the Illini 3 times in the regular season, but has never coached in Champaign until this December when that will change. Boeheim's Army, that's the obvious pick, but keep an eye on the nerd team. I spoke with a couple guys from the nerd team last year, Aaron Toomey and company, and I used chip on the shoulder a couple times, but that's a team with a little something to prove, proving these little guys, these what you call nerds from the Ivy League schools, your traditionally prestigious academic universities, showing they can come out and get the job done, and they've got some good players. Not saying they'll win, but if there is a nerd team Boeheim's Army matchup in round 2, that could be one to watch.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, I mean, we mentioned it before with Notre Dame. I've been trying to find ways to get that nerd team, see if we can pick off Boeheim's Army, but that is just a loaded squad. DeAndre Kane, Boeheim's Army, they won it all last year. I think they've got a great chance to do it again this year. I love the nerd team as much as I want them to move on. I would love to see that matchup between those two teams. Another one, I think Blue Collar U has a clear path to win a couple of these games because I'm not really believing a whole lot in Friday Beers, despite Rusty, TikTok sensation, 5'11", gigantic center. I'm just not believing a whole lot in him. So I think Boeheim's Army, this is their region to take.
And if I'll add one more thing, I think, one thing I just thought of is it's so hard to beat Boeheim's Army because with that stacked team, even if somebody's having an off night, they have people to pick it up because last year in Peoria, I saw pretty much all of their games. One game, it was Kiefer Sykes, who actually ended up signing a pro contract with the Pacers after that. So it would be fun to see if anybody will receive a pro contract after this year's tournament. But, one day it was Kiefer Sykes, and then, the next day DeAndre Kane went crazy, and then against Always a Brave, it was Chris McCullough that was shouldering the load. So, they can afford to have a couple of guys maybe have, a little bit off night shooting the basketball, and they can still probably win by, 5 to 10 points. So that's just what makes Boeheim's Army so hard to beat.
Keep an eye, too, though, on the number 2 seed in the Syracuse region, and that's Blue Collar U. That's a team that plays aggressive, a team that's had, a team that has a lot of players from a Buffalo program that's had a lot of success lately. C.J. Massenberg, Blake Hamilton. I mean, they've got some guys. And they won't be too far from home, Syracuse to Buffalo, a team that I really like. Talked with a couple of guys from that program last year. So Blue Collar U, keep an eye on them. Again, Syracuse, you're right. They've got the dogs. They've got the guys that can come out and they're battle-tested. But Blue Collar U is ready to make an impact also.
All right. Well, with all of that being said, we are now set and primed with 3 out of the 4 regions picked for us. Matt Lucas has the last in West Virginia and Dayton. Dayton, of course, becoming a very popular site. It's also the host of the championship. But Matt, you maybe had the more balanced, maybe not so top-heavy, but maybe top to bottom, the more truly balanced quadrant. You want to go ahead and break that down?
Yeah, you just mentioned it. I think this is also, a very close little regions couple that we have here. I'm not really sure that there's one team that really stands out above the rest of them. I have the money team winning their first game against Athletics Miami. I'm not really huge on Athletics Miami. There's some question marks about how they're going to play. They're a new team to the tournament. We see how those teams normally do at the beginning. I really think the money team led by Jimmer Fredette, I mean, that's been the story the last couple of days, is his return to basketball in the United States. He's been playing in China last year for the Shanghai Sharks. He's been bounced around ever since being a 10th overall pick in the NBA. So I like them winning their first game. I have the Mid-American Unity winning. I'm a MAC guy. I've got a couple relatives who've gone to MAC schools, so I've been watching their basketball for a while, along with the football too. But I like them winning their first game. Men of Mackey, Purdue alumni. We've seen what Purdue has done before in March Madness. I like the upside here. It's a 4-5. It goes either way. The Red Scare, we're playing in Dayton. I know home crowd isn't a huge thing here, but the Red Scare, those Flyer fans, if anyone's going to show out, it's going to be them. I love the Red Scare, the way that their guys have played before. I don't know how you don't run with them here. So I've got them beating City Team. City Team, they've got Taco Fall as a booster. He's not playing though, so you don't have to worry about him. So you got Golden Eagles, 2 seed. They've been great in the TBT before. They've been playing for a while. I believe they're 22-5 all time in the TBT. They're one of the historically great teams in this tournament. Expect them not to have any challenge with Ohio 1804, but you never know. We go to West Virginia. West Virginia is the team that I have who's going to run this whole region here and go on to the semifinals. I think they're a great squad. They've got a great Javon Carter on there, little architect of West Virginia during his playing time. He won't be playing. He'll just be on the sideline as coach. But I think the influence that he'll have on the team is going to do a little bit. I think that's going to get them past their first couple of games. If they win that first game, and the next round was heard that Marshall alumni squad and the Founding Fathers from J. Madison. If Herd that can knock off Founding Fathers, we're going to get a West Virginia or Best Virginia and Herd that matchup, and I am excited for that. If I'm going to tune in for a game, that's one that I'm also tuning in for, because that's a great rivalry when it comes to college basketball. Can't wait to see it between the two alumni squads. So I'm excited for that one there. Wilco Showtime, they came close to being Best Virginia in last year's tournament. That was a great, fantastic game for all you guys who watched that one. War Ready, though, I believe that this team is going to make a run. They're going to be one of the squads like Jackson, Tennessee last year, who just kind of came out of nowhere. I like them here, and I have them winning a couple games, too. Because the Buccaneers, they're a 2 seed. They made a couple surprises last year, but they got the 2 seed. The target's on their back now instead of on their opponents. I don't see them being able to take War Ready. So I got a Best Virginia, War Ready, little third round action here, kind of quarter, region semifinals. And I've got Best Virginia. War Ready, I think, could make the win here, but we're playing in West Virginia, so I think we're going to get West Virginia there. And then we're going to have Red Scare. They're going to come beat Golden Eagles. I see a huge upset there. I know Golden Eagles has had the history in the past, but I really like this Red Scare team. And the money team, again, they've been super dominant, but I think Jimmer Fredette is kind of the main guy there, and I feel like if you stop him, they're going to have a little bit better chance. They're a little bit one of the shorter teams. They got an average height of 6'4". So they're one of the shorter squads in that region. I see them. They're going to make it to the region semifinals, but I got the Red Scare winning, and we're going to have a Red Scare West Virginia little showdown, and West Virginia is going to take that one. I like the 1 seed here. I think that's a good seed for them. But really, we talked about it at the beginning. Cody brought it up, bringing it over here, that all of these teams are very close to each other. I'm not sure if there's one team that stands out, so I like the argument for a couple of these teams here, but I'm going with West Virginia. I just like the style of basketball that they played in college, and I think they're going to bring that here too.
All right, so now it's time for the quick rebuttal from the panel. I guess I'll go ahead and pick someone out for this one since you've all kind of gone first. Jonathan, if you want to go ahead and kick things off for us here, talking about West Virginia and Dayton.
Yeah, so overall, I agree with this being one of the more balanced brackets. I think this one was, one of the hardest ones for me to pick. I do like, pretty much all the picks in the first round. I also picked War Ready to beat Wilco Showtime. And what's going to be interesting to see is, Fletcher McGee, one of the most prolific scorers over at Wofford, I believe, 2-3 years or so ago. He's on the squad as well, but do they have enough to take down the Auburn alumni? And I think that was going to be a really close game. I think War Ready, they've had a couple close defeats or whatever in TBT. I think they're going to pull it out. And then the money team, obviously Jimmer Fredette. I don't think there was a single player in college basketball who I enjoyed watching more back when he was with the BYU Cougars. But it is really tough to defend that team. They have they're spread out well. I like Men of Mackey actually to pull off the upset over the money team. I just feel like they're a little bit more hard nosed. The money team, they always put together a great year, but it seems like they're always susceptible to a loss maybe a round or two earlier than most would expect. So I'm gonna go with Men of Mackey. I think a big factor is going to be, and certainly Illinois and Big Ten fans will remember the name Robbie Hummel, as there's a pretty good chance that he killed your team once in a while. So Robbie Hummel on Men of Mackey, I think, is going to be huge as well. And then Red Scare and Golden Eagles, I think that, along with Zip 'em Up and Sideline Cancer, I think that's going to be the best game of the second round. I really like the Golden Eagles. I actually picked them to win this entire quadrant and advance to the Final Four, and they're just such a deep team as well. I mean, they have Diamond Stone this year. Got a little NBA action with the Clippers. They also have Elgin Cook, Dwight Bikes as well, former Toronto Raptor who can really shoot the ball. They got Maurice Acker, Vander Blue, Travis Diener, who's a TBT legend. So it's, I really like Red Scare a lot. They have, they certainly have at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 guys that can hurt you really bad on any given night. But I have the Golden Eagles going all the way, but I certainly do understand Matt's picks, and it's really hard to go, any which way because, all these games you're almost splitting hairs for the most part. So real close regional. I expect to see some Elam ending heroics a lot in this quadrant.
Well, speaking of splitting hairs, John, how about thinning hairs? Because that's exactly what you'll see on Heard That. They've got a lot of guys that maybe are a little follically challenged, starting to
Elmore,
John Elmore, and they've got a couple guys too who are, both the Elmores, John and Ott.
Yep.
Stevie Browning starting to lose it a little bit. They got
So
Justin Johnson's hairline,
Head & Shoulders commercial for him.
Maybe a little Bosley or something. But I have a lot of yeah, exactly. But I have a lot of love for Best Virginia and Heard That. And Marshall's a program that's had some success in the NCAA tournament last couple of years. Dan D'Antoni running a good program. And I've lived in West Virginia, lived there for about a year. It's a great rivalry, as Brayton, I think you alluded to, the Chesapeake Energy Classic men's basketball. They haven't played each other in a few years, and the Friends of Coal Bowl in football would go, pretty slanted towards West Virginia. They haven't played in a decade, but it's a matchup that, really brings people out in West Virginia. I know it would be well attended this year, should they play in the round of 32. Marshall's got a lot of fans in West Virginia. I lived in the southern part of the state, about an hour south of Charleston, or Huntington, I should say, where Marshall's located, and they're a dedicated fan base. So if they can get past Founding Fathers, and West Virginia should have no problem with Virginia Dream, that will be maybe not the matchup to watch in the round of 32. West Virginia should get the job done, but John Elmore and company might have something to say. Keep an eye on Heard That, because that'll be an electric game in the round of 32 if it happens, and it's not guaranteed to happen. You'll remember, I think what TBT wanted last year in Peoria was that Bradley-Illinois matchup in round 2. Got bailed out by Bradley, but it was looking for a minute like Bradley and Illinois were both going to bow out in the first round, and Illinois did. And that's why I'm wearing Mr. Paul's jersey. So he was so upset he just left it in the tunnel. It was trampled. I found it like 2 days later. It had footprints all over it. It had
underneath the bleachers, right? I think is what you were, because we were both on-site interns, and I think you had texted me. He's like, "You need this back." I was like, "He's not playing again."
Yeah, he was done. It was under the bleachers. It was like kind of wedged, because at Carver, you walk out of the tunnel up to the court. There's a little ramp that kind of bridges the two, and it was like wedged under there. It was his here are his shorts right here. I've got those. And
Made
had
an
his
appearance
knee pad,
at the Peoria
too.
night scene, if I remember right. You wore it for Halloween, if I remember right, when we went out and had some fun.
I wore that. Yep. I wore that ensemble out to Halloween. You gave me some wristbands to wear, and that was my first appearance at Saddle Up nightclub downtown. So, thank you, Brandon. Thank you. You know, I guess I owe Brandon Paul and company a thank you for losing. But what I'm saying is, watch out. I mean, there could be an intern in West Virginia wearing a Best Virginia jersey in downtown Morgantown come Halloween. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We'll see what happens.
On that high note, we have now completed our 4 quadrants, and now becomes the time where I read you back now the semifinal qualifiers, and each of you will make a pitch to the other remaining 3, and the other remaining 3 will, kind of discuss, and I'll also chime in as well. But as a group, we will pick the semifinal winners after hearing the reasoning throughout their brackets, making it to the points that they did, and then we'll also pick the championship game. So, again, here's a quick glimpse at our semifinal matchups for the whole tournament, in case you have forgotten to this point. In Omaha, we have the Gutter Cats taking that region between Wichita and Omaha. Joey picked Zip 'em Up. Matt chose Best Virginia. So we have 3 1 seeds, including Boeheim's Army, and then a 3 seed, which Joey selected. So I guess we'll go ahead and start back with you, Brayton. Go ahead and give us your pitch. What's the reason, that we should pick the Gutter Cats to move on past Zip 'em Up?
So I think it's pretty simple why we go with the Gutter Cats over Zip 'em Up. It's success outside of the country and in. They have success in the tournament. Not only that, but Tyler Hines coming back being a coach. He's won tournaments and leagues in Russia, Italy, Germany. I mean, a ton of international success, and he's bringing his crew with him. So, I mean, it's not just him that's going to be out there helping these players move forward. Not only that, but if you look at the direct size of most of these guys, they only have 2 players listed under 6'5", and one is 6 foot, one is 6'1". Both are point guards, so they probably won't be on the court at the same time as anyway. So the rest of the court, all four other positions are going to be 6'5" or taller, and that's hard to play against. And you can make a case for, well, when you get into fast break, it gets a little hard. Big guys fall, maybe not, might not move the ball as well. I'm taking size in this tournament, especially when you got 6'5" shooting guards. Angelo Colorado, he plays internationally right now. He was a San Francisco grad, and he stands at 6'8". He's going to be a centerpiece of their offense. I think that the Gutter Cats, which was formerly Team Hines, where he'd bring international players over, I think this is the case where they get over the hump, and Coach Hines has one more thing to check off of his list. He's won, as I've said, tournaments everywhere. He has not won a TBT tournament, and I think this is the year that he does it. So that's my case for him. I think they have a well-rounded team with size, and that's the biggest factor for me. And they also have a great coaching staff to get these guys over the hump.
Okay, we'll go ahead and throw it over to Joey now for the rebuttal for Zip 'em Up.
Yeah, I think Zip 'em Up coming off what should be a pretty successful regional for them. Home court advantage. Big 3 led by JP McCura and company. That's going to be such a tough team to beat. They're going to be playing good basketball, and they've got a couple guys. They've got some size. You look at Kaiser Gates, 6'8", Kareem Cantor, 6'9", Justin Martin, 6'6", in the 3 guard. McCura, 6'5", shooting guard. Devin Davis is a guy that can get you. C.J. Anderson and Jeff Robinson leading the coaching staff. I look up and down this Xavier team. I just see so much size. They don't have a single player shorter than 6'1", but and then you'd expect that on a basketball team, of course. But the mid 6'6" and up. I mean, they're so lengthy. They're going to be such a tough matchup down low, and then you can kick it out. To some pretty good shooters, McCura and company. They can kill you in a bunch of different ways. I've got to look at this Zip 'em Up team, energized, a good fan base, good support in the Cincinnati area. They had high expectations last year from talking with a few of them, and won a game, but didn't get quite what they were looking for. I think they return a little bit of experience. They know what to expect, and you look at TBT 2021. Not to take anything away from those who won or what have you, but it was such a tough year to be a first-time team. It was a pretty normal tournament, but 2021, you still had some COVID things. It really was a threat to your international talent, the pandemic being where it was, and it made it difficult for guys to get together and train. Maybe still some residual effects from the pandemic out there now, but by and large, it should be a lot easier for first-year, second-year teams to get together and gel, and that's what I like about Zip 'em Up is they've got that experience. They've got a terrific big three: Trayvon Blewett, JP McCura, Mark Lyons. A lot of size, good shooters, and a good crowd behind them. I have a tough time picking against Zip 'em Up in any round this year.
Okay, so now that both of you have made your cases, Matt and Jonathan, the three of us will now vote as the deciding factor to see who moves on. Matt, we'll start with you first. Just kind of quickly, just a thought or two. We'll try and keep this moving, try and keep this close to an hour as we can. Might run a little over here. But just kind of quick thoughts and then who you're voting for.
Okay, so just quickly here, I know I'm going against Boeheim's Army here, but give me a chance, all right? So, look, Overseas Elite is the only team in the TBT who has ever won multiple championships here. They won the 4 of them back in, I think it was 2015, 2018. So I think already you got Boeheim's Army with a big target on their back. West Virginia, the thing I like about them is their size as well. You got 7 guys who are 6'7" or over. I like big Caleb Wesson. He's not a WVU grad. He's from Ohio State, but I like the addition of him to the roster. I like D'Angelo Hunter, 6'7", small forward. John Flowers, a small forward, 6'8". We got Devin Ebanks, also a small forward, 6'9". I really like a lot of this here, and I think what West Virginia does best is their balance. There's not really one guy who's really going to destroy everyone, but it's everybody pitching in and a team effort. They've got well amount of small forwards. They got a lot of shooting guards, point guards. Got a couple of power forwards. Again, I bring up Caleb Wesson. I think he's going to be a big factor in these games, especially late. And I think Boeheim's Army with a target on their back leaves West Virginia with a good opportunity to go to the championship.
All right, now, Jonathan, you will round out our sales pitches, so to speak, but for the defending champions, so a pitch may not be as hard as much as it is repeating.
Yeah, so obviously Boeheim's Army, that everybody's going to be gunning for them this year, and like Matt said, West Virginia does have a lot of size as well. But you look at Boeheim's Army's roster, and they added some size this year as well, some new size that wasn't on their team last year. They got a trio of power forwards in Kyle Wiltjer, who again did not go to Syracuse, went to Kentucky and Gonzaga, but if he can really stretch the floor and shoot the three as well. Merrick Dolezaj as well, who joins the team. Can't say I know much about him, but at 6'10", he's definitely going to contribute some size. And then they also have a former Indiana Pacer, Rakeem Christmas, who I gotta say, one of the best names in basketball. But I think it will be a Merry Christmas, for these guys' family members after they end up winning the championship with the winnings they got from TBT. They'll buy the family something nice. But back to what I was saying, Boeheim's Army, they have size. And we talk about size, but, that's not going to be the only thing that wins TBT. You need versatility because, you look at these teams and, these guys are, older than, they're not all straight out of college. I mean, some of them are. But, there are a couple older players and, you need guys to step up in different areas maybe when somebody's not carrying the load. And Boeheim's Army, can't do that because they get the guard position. They got CJ Fair, who was just a stud in college. They bring in D. Bost as well, all SEC pick when he was at Mississippi State, as well as, former NBA player Tyler Ennis as well. We had a multi-year NBA career. And I haven't even mentioned DJ Kenny and DeAndre Kane yet. In the versatility that they bring, they can play anywhere from the 2 to the 4. And I think as what it's going to boil down to is, this is a long tournament. These guys, maybe not, quite accustomed to playing, 3, 4, 5 games, like, all in succession within the span of a couple days. But, I think West Virginia, I think they're going to have to grind it out a little bit more. especially if they go up against, teams like Herd That and the Buccaneers. I had them facing the Golden Eagles in the quarterfinals. And, I think that's just going to wear them down a little bit more and give Boeheim's Army a little bit of an edge. However, I do think the key for Boeheim's Army is just to not beat themselves. I think that's the only way that they lose this tournament.
Okay, well, now that you've all made your pitches to each other and made your voices heard, we're going to keep it with you, Jonathan, and you're going to be the first one to select between the Gutter Cats and Zip 'em Up. It'll, of course, be a best-of-3 vote, so if we get 2 straight in a row for one team or for another, I'll be the deciding vote, but we won't pick after that if that's the case. So, Jonathan, quickly, who are you selecting in this matchup?
I really like Zip 'em Up, honestly. Joey, pretty much hit on all the points. I concur with everything. I see him going crazy there. Giving an Alexander Lay-esque reaction there, but I gotta choose Zip 'em Up. I think the Xavier alums, as a 3 seed, I think they're gonna take the fact they were underseeded. Even though they're in a tough region, I think they're gonna feel like they were underseeded and they want to prove something. I think they will.
Okay, Matt, now to you. If you select the other cats, we'll go to a third vote, which will be me. But if not, Zip 'em Up will move on to the championship round. But who are you selecting between the Gutter Cats out of Omaha, Wichita, and Zip 'em Up between Rucker Park and Xavier?
Well, I know Tuma's going to like this one because I'm going with the Gutter Cats. I love everything that he brought up with them. I think they are, I know they're a 1 seed, but I think they're even underseeded at that. I think they have a great job to get past their region. I don't think there's a whole lot stopping them there. So I think they have a great chance to get there, and I'm going to have them beaten Zipping Up. I know now it leaves it to Cody to take it to the final one here, but I'm sorry, Jonathan, Joey. I got to go with Tuma Gutter Cats.
Okay, well, since the vote falls to me, the one thing that both Joey and Brayton have hit on it plenty of times, the size from both teams might be the most comparable throughout either matchup you could have in the tournament. But the thing that really does it for me is the quality of quadrant. And like we've said before, Zip 'em Up may be in the most bloodthirsty quadrant and specifically regional that we have here. And I think that's going to just push them over the top for me because they're going to have to go through maybe 2 of the top 4, maybe even 5 teams in this whole tournament with Sideline Cancer also in their bracket, who, again, is a pretty hard team to knock out year in and year out. So for that reason, Zip 'em Up will be getting my vote, and they'll be advancing on to the championship game. Brayton, I know, I'm sorry. We'll have this discussion on another Spotlight Sports podcast episode. You'll get me back at some point. But for that reason, Zip 'em Up will be moving on. And now it's time for you two to make your selections, and we'll start with Brayton first. You'll get the choice to start things off between Best Virginia and Boeheim's Army to decide who will play Zip 'em Up in the final.
This is going to be a tough matchup, and you got to stay with me on this one because it's going to be a grind for it. But I think they can do it, especially because I think they'll end up getting a little bit of a cruise type break to this semifinal matchup. But I'm gonna go with Best Virginia. To me, it's a full stacked Boeheim's Army team. But I look at it and I'm like, there's just something about basketball semifinals in Dayton, Ohio. Like I have this gut feeling. Like of course I look at the stats, I look at the paper, I look at everything, and I'm like, well, I should definitely pick Boeheim's Army. But there's a gut feeling that when I look at this matchup, I just think West Virginia is hungry enough. And not only that, but after this, they've already beaten a rival and heard that. And they're just going to have a lot of fun throughout this tournament. And with the understanding that Boeheim's Army is a stacked roster, so they will have to grind it out. And they're going to have to capitalize off of Boeheim's Army's mistakes. But I think they're the team to do it. I think they're the team to knock off the defending champs. And I see it happening. So my pick does go to Best Virginia.
Okay, now it's you,
on
Joey.
January 13th.
Go ahead, buddy. You got it. Go ahead. Carry it away. You got momentum. Go for it.
I'm sorry, Cody. I'm sorry. No, that's on me. But as I was saying, and you can cut that out if you choose. On January 13th, 2008, 13,560 people packed WVU Coliseum. Thousands more watched on ESPNU as West Virginia beat Syracuse 81-61. And I think history repeats itself in this semifinal matchup. I think West Virginia takes it. I do. I think, Brayton knows. Brayton knows what's up. I think.
Is he going to do the gritty or something? Where'd he go? I thought he was going to like gritty across the screen or something.
I can't.
With regard, TBT is weird because there's only been one champion who's won more than one in a row, or one or more in a row, or one in a row. I guess
has back-to-back or more.
It's easy to win one championship in a row.
One
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, 2 in a row or more, and that's overseas elite. They won 4 in a row. I mean, they were just they were kicking butt and taking names for a while, but no one else has won back-to-back championships. It's hard to do, not for overseas elite, but for other teams, it seems hard to do. Boeheim's Army might have the best roster in this year's field. It's just so hard to, because you get these guys, they're coming in from different backgrounds, and Boeheim's Army's got very good players, very good, well-conditioned players, and their experience. But it's just so tough to replicate success in this tournament, or it can be anyways. And I just think West Virginia, coming in off momentum, I like what I see in this roster. You look at Caleb Wesson, Jawan Staten in company. Jameel Morris will be a good guy. He didn't go to West Virginia. He's kind of a friend of the program. D'Angelo Hunter and a bunch of guys that just jump off the page at you. It's a good program, very consistent program. Bob Huggins has really done a good number at West Virginia last couple of years. And, of course, Kansas State and Cincinnati as well. He's a legend and runs a good program. And I think, in a matchup of 2 teams that hosted regionals, I got to give it to West Virginia. We'll see how it goes. It should be a good game, but I'm giving them the slight edge. And, of course, Syracuse will be hungry. That's a rematch of the second round of the 2021 NCAA tournament. But I just look at that game in 2008, and I don't know. It was a 20-point win for the Mountaineers.
Something interesting I noticed as we were going through our semifinals, all but one of our teams that we've selected are regional hosts. And I was just wondering if you guys think that home court, even though it's a neutral site tournament, will play that big of an impact.
I mean, I think at the beginning it will. A lot of the fans will come out for the first couple of games. I don't know if it's going to stick there forever because obviously it's not their college team that's playing still, but I think there's going to be some effect to it as well. I mean, you were at the Bradley game last year, right? You couldn't tell me that there wasn't some home cook in there that helped them get past. So I think in the first couple games, and especially like you bring out West Virginia against that in the next round, that place is going to be packed for that rivalry game. I think it's going to have some effect. It may not be the end all, but I think there'll be something there.
I agree with Matt. Oh, go ahead, Joey.
I'm talking on everyone. I mean, I'm never going to get invited to do another podcast again. I'm just, no manners. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Joey.
John, I was just going to say that is an interesting point, but I think part of it too is they don't just give these regionals to anybody. You've got to be a good team, and you've got to have good prospects to be able to host some games, and certainly, or it's got to be a unique region. And I think you see that in the case of Hoopville Warriors. Rucker Park, that helps them. I don't think Hoopville Warriors is expected to make a run by any, but they could steal a game. Especially against a team like YGC. But I think you look in the case of Syracuse, West Virginia, and Xavier. Those are really good programs. I mean, those are programs that bring back key alumni, and have in the case of Syracuse and Zip them up. Played in this and they've all played in this tournament and done a number and West Virginia took a year off last year, but they've all played in the tournament. They've all got some experience. I think, the home court advantage will be nice, but I think, at least in my case, the reason I picked Zip 'em Up is I like their pedigree. I like what they did last year. I like their energy. I like their guys. I like how they'll play. And home court will help them through those first couple matchups because, the first or second game you play in a tournament like this is always going to be the toughest. But I don't think it'll play that big of a role come rounds 3, 4, and on.
All right, well, as we welcome Brayton back, who had a quick little lapse there, but regardless, now it's back to the championship game. We have Best Virginia and we have Zip 'em Up. So, Jonathan and Brayton, you will join me in selecting a champion. And we'll start first with Jonathan, your pick between the two, and maybe just a quick sentence or two as why.
Yeah, I like Zip 'em Up. Just like Joey said, the pedigree. I think they're more versatile and more stacked. And I think that you don't want to pick a team that's too good on paper. That's why I actually did not pick Boeheim's Army to win the entire thing. On my original bracket, I actually had sideline cancer. But you want a team that has a lot of good chemistry, a lot of guys that played together as well, and you want a team that's young but doesn't have too much hype because then you get the target on their back. I think Zip 'em Up, fits that. I think they're going to win it in a classic against West Virginia.
All right, now to you, Brayton. It's one vote for Zip 'em Up. Vote for Best Virginia. Will send it back to me. If not, we will declare Zip 'em Up our Group 2022 TBT champion. And your selection is?
Well, this is a tough one. You got to look at Best. They're right off behind our about themselves, but where I'm not so overly hyped that everyone talks about it. But big target on that. They can kind of cruise in with a couple of really good wins. So it's tough, but overall, I gotta give it the best. The only reason we played a really quality basketball game, and all these teams are of a high quality. But like going up in Daytona, once electric environment, they played together. They're young, as Jonathan brought up again. They're to where you don't have too many old guys, but you don't have too many young guys that are a little inexperienced. So my vote goes to Best.
Okay, so that pushes our tally to one apiece in the title game, and so I'm kind of torn between the two because on one hand you have a team coming out of maybe the most difficult regional. Like I said earlier, it was the reason I pushed them past the Gutter Cats, and on the other side, you have a team maybe coming out of the most balanced bracket as well, also having, like you said, to take down an in-state rival. But ultimately, to me, I think it's kind of what we've touched on a lot for Zip 'em Up. It's the ability to play in a region where you know it's going to be extremely difficult, to not be the number one seed with the target on their back, to have all enough talent, to kind of find your way through and still be competitive against a lot of those upper echelon teams. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and give the nod to Zip 'em Up. We'll have the number 3 seed be our 2022 TBT champion, as Joey will be, I guess, the inaugural pick champion, as Zip 'em Up downs Best Virginia 2-1 vote. But I just want to really thank you guys for all tuning in. I know this ran a little longer than we all kind of thought it would, but had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys had a lot of fun picking them. Just kind of your guys' last thoughts, and then we'll all sign off.
Hey, Cody, this didn't run as long as the Zips victory parade through Cincinnati. This was fun. This was a good time. You remember the Cubs parade a few years ago? That was nothing. The Musketeers are going to celebrate. They are going to have some fun.
And you know
Cody,
what?
what I remember.
Go
ahead, Matt.
I'm going to take second place because at least they got that far. I still think I'm going to pick West Virginia to win it all. But you know what? As a group, we'll take Zip 'em Up. We'll give Joey the crown for this moment. But Cody, this was really fun. I think this was a great job that we did all together. And I think this is going to be a really fun tournament to watch, and I can't wait. So thanks for the invite for this podcast. And I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Cody, I had a ton of fun. I love talking TBT, and it is easy to talk for over an hour. About TBT just because of just how dynamic it is on so many levels. And I think what this podcast really taught me is there's a lot of good basketball being played along the Ohio River. So I think the road to a TBT championship is going to run through Cincinnati. And as somebody who almost went to Xavier myself, been inside the Cintas Center, it's a great place. They love the Musketeers, and there are a lot of fan favorites on that team. So I do think that there will be some good celebration down at Dana's Gardens down in Cincinnati after they win this one.
Yeah, it was fun to talk about this with you guys. It's always fun to talk sports in general. I mean, and this would be something I'm excited to do for something maybe that's not the TBT, any other sport. It was great to have and talk to you guys and have more than just Cody to bounce ideas off of, and more than just Cody to call me crazy for my picks. Yeah, so I mean, it's fun. This tournament's going to be electric. It always is. You got old school basketball players coming in with guys who have the where they were big in college or they bounced back from the pros. It's going to be fun, electric. And I think Daytona is going to be
Absolutely, and who knows, maybe 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we'll be back here trying to recap everything as we get set for the semifinals. But for one last goodbye, for Joey Wright, Matt Lucas, Jonathan Michael, and of course Brayton Tuma, I've been Cody Roskins. Thanks for tuning in to this episode here on Spotlight Sports, and we will see you guys next time.